think of you all the time. You are like redemption to me. All my life, I've sought the kind of experience I felt would be possible to me, and have spent my time trying to convey, by means of pictures, what this life is like. It was a thing clearly seen by me from the time when I first began to draw and paint. When I think of the places and circumstances when and where I have conceived such notions for a picture, I like to take my thoughts for a walk and marry them to some place in Cookham. To actually locate the spot and place one has formed in one's mind is not easy. It's like trying to find the source of the rainbow. The eastern aspect of Cookham had a look of great promise. Whatever the sky happened to be, it always had that special meaning, seeing it over the woods. The marsh meadows, full of flowers, leave me with an aching longing, and in my art, that longing was among the first I sought to satisfy. It celebrates my marriage to Cookham. I had, as a child, no thought other than that Christ had made everything wonderful, and that I might be able later to join in that glory, knowing that every part of what you saw in a glimpse would be heaven, something you would love, and would love to dwell on. When you did see heaven, you would take in all and every part with the same feeling of expectancy and joy.
I will praise thee, for thou hast heard me.
I saw in our homely, fernly life nothing of the cruelty of the world outside it.
The stone which the builders refused is become the headstone of the corner. This is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes. This is the day which the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Save now, I beseech thee, O Lord. O Lord, I beseech thee, send now prosperity. Blessed be he that cometh.
In our home, where all was familiar, there was an almost unknown place, the attic. This was the servants' room. At times, I heard converse going on and felt it might be the maid was talking to an angel. In the centurion's servant, the people praying around the bed may have something to do with the fact that in our village, if anyone was ill, the custom was to pray around the bed. In church, I sometimes during prayer looked around and took in the atmosphere and was in a state of contemplation and wonder. Somehow religion was something to do with me, and I was to do with religion. It came into my vision quite naturally, like the sky and the rain. It's amazing that people cannot see the wonder that is in the barest reality, the way people and places are joined in an essential way. I observed this sacred quality in the most unexpected quarters. I could see the richness that underlies the Bible in Cookham, in the hedges, in the yew trees. Places in Cookham seem to be possessed by a sacred presence of which the inhabitants are not aware. The people in the apple gatherers are, as it were, brought forth by the place and are therefore aware of its divinity. In this picture, I have tried to say what life was. The husband and wife are still related in a universal sense. They seem not even to be aware of each other. They seem only coexistent, like earth and water. And yet it seems a vital relationship. I became aware that everything was full of special meaning, and this made everything holy. I noticed that all strong religious feeling inspires me with greater clarity of vision. Vision gives birth to itself, and the joy one feels causes other joys to join in. Reading John Donne's poem, Going to Heaven by Heaven, I seemed to get an impression of a side view of heaven as I imagined it to be, and from that thought to imagining how people behaved there. As I was thinking like this, I seemed to see 4 people praying in different directions. He must have meant heaven is everywhere. So, of course, they pray in all directions. The 3 experiences of my life at this time were the Slade, with life drawing, the life at home, and the feeling the Bible gave me. I was always wanting to establish a union between myself and what is divine and holy, and to be able to see the connection. Religious faith comes from this sense of wonder. When I left the Slade and went back to Cookham, I entered a kind of earthly paradise. Everything seemed fresh and to belong to the morning. My ideas were beginning to unfold in fine order when along comes the war and smashes everything. When I first enlisted, I began to feel I was dying of starvation, spiritual starvation. Then suddenly I began to catch hold of little particles of spiritual life in scrubbing floors or making beds. Just cutting up bread and butter in the kitchen revealed to me as much of the spiritual life I longed to attain as if I had sat down and had half an hour's talk with God. Things became sacred to me by association. It was while I was plodding along behind a mule in Macedonia that I suddenly had, for one brief moment, a feeling of completeness and unselfishness and redemption of everything. This flash of insight was the basis of the inspiration for the Berkeley Memorial Chapel. The picture reveals the resurrection from several states of imperfection, ordinary physical happenings such as being killed or buried or caught in barbed wire, to the one total state of perfection. You can see how each individual feels in his attitude to what the cross means by the way he's holding it. The whole of life is a journey, a mental journey. It's the journey of the soul from this life to the next. John Donne describes the churchyard as the holy suburb of heaven. Each life or state is the key to the next. That grave there is opening like a womb. It's this reciprocity which brings out the meaning I see in the world. When it comes to why and how I came to concentrate so much on the subject of the resurrection, I think I can explain. My wish is to reveal the meaning of things. In this life, we experience a kind of resurrection when we arrive at a state of awareness, a state of being in love. I approach heaven through what I find on earth. When I see ordinary circumstances, I seem to see the whole of which it forms a part. I was thinking how to paint God's face. I'm very vague about it, but I think perhaps it's a face that has that same mysterious, never-before-seen expression that a new, never-before-seen flower has, and with more sweet associations than there is in the scent of a rose. I describe and reveal God in my work. I show how he is made and what he is made of. God is love, and man is made by the act of, and in the image of, love.
Be with human.
You know what painting really is?
And who could look after it whilst we're at home?
It's saying ta to God.
You used to say it was the design of the soul.
Same thing. I've often wanted to do pictures of the progress of the soul.
That's what our letters to each other are.
Each letter's a wonderful spiritual journey that we're taking together. I'll write you one 100 pages long and read it to you at breakfast. I remember when she came around to me and the rest of us with the soup. I thought how extraordinary she looked. I could feel my real self in that extraordinary person. I felt a longing for her, as at once I saw life in her and with her.
Yes, quite.
Hilda. Oh, Hilda, it's time. I was always having imaginings of what getting into bed with a woman was like, and I was forever doing so in my mind, never in fact. And one night, as I was lying in bed, it suddenly occurred to me to go downstairs to your bedroom.
You were in your nightshirt.
I was trembling so much I could hardly stand. And as I came in, you said, "Oh?" And then, "Oh, ducky." We got into bed, and we talked about God.
And Christian Science.
And I remember thinking how nice it was. One of my first and best instincts about falling in love was the feeling of giving and expressing gratitude, with the effect of revealing more and more of our spiritual nature. It's the feeling I have always had about Christ. Love for me is definitely a religious intuition. When you are married and have been in bed with your wife, do you not feel an emotion of blessedness when you catch sight of her the next day? When I lined the church path at some village wedding, I felt there was something of import in the wedded pair walking down the path towards the churchyard. They had become holy. I think of the couple going in that state, straight to their home, and carrying on being those beings right into their life and bed. And when later I knew of sex, it added mystery and meaning to the sense and became, to me, more remarkable and spiritual than ever. The sex and religious expression are so singularly parallel, and similar emotions of awe and passion. In life, there is one art practiced by all, and that is love. I like to imagine the lives of married couples in their homes. I see them return from work and then disappear into that imagined realm of my thoughts as I wonder what is happening on the other side of the wall. For years, I've gazed at those grocer's windows over his shop, feeling that I am like them. I have imagined inside it has become heaven, and that the new resurrected life has taken place in that bedroom, in the middle of the afternoon. This picture expresses the joy of life through intimacy. All the signs and tokens of home life, such as cabbage leaves and teapots, which I've so much loved, and that I had resurrected from the dustbin, because they are reminders of home life and peace and being adored, as the dustman is. These things were bits of the lives of the people to whom they once belonged. They are religious holy relics. I like to feel that things which cease to be used in life may somehow be resuscitated. part of the teaching of the Christians has destroyed and blinded the vision of the true significance of just anything or object. It's as though a person of the New Testament could be a mechanical robot and still be a perfect Christian, a person who has no conception of the regenerating power, the oneness with God of the Old Testament.
No, I don't think that's right.
There should be a sense and realization of worth in all things. You look like Byron when he complained to Coleridge about his essay teaching metaphysics to the nation. He wanted him to explain his explanation.
You're so self-opinionated. Then why do you set yourself up as a magnet round which we all revolve? You want me to mould myself to you and only want what you want. You say you want me to be an individual, but really you just can't bear me to be.
I like what I believe, and I believe what I like. I found myself possessing an emotion which was very strong, which seemed to come uninvited and unexpected, as though I had left the door open and a not-thought-before idea had come in. There was nothing wrong with the feeling, but it was fatal because I thought it would conform with conventional demands. Of course it wouldn't. Nothing I want in this life ever does. It made me feel so hopeless of ever achieving the kind of sex perfection demanded by religion and the marriage bond that I viewed my sex feeling as a pitfall, a menace to any achievement I hoped for. I saw my sex behavior condemn me to an anti-religious life. I am on the side of the angels and dirt. I hope I'm not a Judas, but it looks as if I am.
I don't know what to say about the question of you and Patricia. I'm tremendously anxious for the right thing to happen and for you to have what you need and want.
Because this wretched money situation puts too much check on our activities here.
Ask Hilda to make do on less. You could put the house in my name. That way she won't be able to get it. If she writes to say she doesn't like it, I'll put the letters in a box. You can read them when the decree nisi comes through. I'll handle everything if you like.
It is no good pretending the children can live on air. Why do you do this? Giving with one hand and taking with the other. You are my husband, my only husband, and nothing can make it not so. I'm your wife for always. No one else can ever be your real wife.
I have written to the bank to tell them to stop your allowance. I shall not see you if you come here.
This is all too much for me. It is now 10 years since we were married, and Patricia is the age I was then. I miss not getting your weekly letters, for though they were brief, they were at least a message. I also miss the £3. Physically and mentally, I'm going under. I cannot turn against what I once loved and revered. I went to Cookham to bring away my belongings. His letters were one of the items I was expecting to bring back. But I found that he'd arranged them so beautifully, in order, his and my corresponding ones, all numbered and tied in lots and so on, and I had not the heart to separate his from mine and undo his work and take half away. They all seemed to belong together, so I decided to leave them untouched. This was when Patricia had just married Stanley, but had decided not ever to have sex with him, although I didn't know it at the time.
It's a great and scandalous shame that Patricia's turned me out of my house to sell it. I have no place to work, no wife, no home, no children, no money. Without God, without love, without inspiration. This marriage has been like a grimace. Mistakes of this kind are not so easily rectified. To believe in divorce would mean to disbelieve in God. The degree of divorce from God, from which so many of us are suffering, has conducted our capacity to love into a sort of cul-de-sac, a mental void. In some awful moments, I feel the need for greater faith and find myself asking the question, Christ has been adequate to me in all things, but is he in this? It was an awful shock to find how little my faith stood in my stead to help me. In trying to get the best of both worlds, the religious and the sexual one, I lost both. When I was reading the Gospels, I wondered, what did Christ do in the wilderness? There was nothing specific in the Bible as to his doings and happenings. These pictures seek to convey the feeling of Christ being in the midst of the wilderness like some old, disused, familiar object that one discerns as something remote from one's own life, but which is really a core to everything. I wanted to see him as a part of nature. I wanted to see him as a part of us.
My greatest joy in you, and you may think it a puny choice, was in the fact that you were pure, and you had never even kissed anyone but me. No matter what happened, no matter how unhappy you made me at times, I always felt you had given me a jewel beyond price, namely that you were pure. So you see, I always felt you were the best husband in the world.
So why do you refuse to remarry me? I live a lonely life because of it. Even if the way to divorce were made as smooth as possible, still it would retain its ugly quality. Divorce is not the way to heaven.
If you tear a branch from a tree, you cannot livingly join it again. I have forcibly torn myself off from you, feeling you wanted a divorce to marry again. And though I feel you are the tree, my home, my husband, yet I was forced to wean myself off from you. I could never now physically be your wife again.
There is only one love. Love of God. And there is only one divorce. Divorce from God. Nothing ever compensated me for the loss of you.
Dear Hilda, you are the only person I visualized as being desired by me through all the years. I was looking forward to when we were both 60 or 70, if needs be. I think of you all the time. You are like redemption to me.
Cortina.